Hex Talks, a show that explores the world of horror through interviews with filmmakers, actors, writers, and some truly unique individuals. I am your host, LAWRIE BREWSTER, and I am a horror filmmaker myself, with 7 feature films under my belt. Together, we're going to learn more about the world of independent film and the incredible influence that horror has had over the lives of some truly fascinating individuals. Hello there, and welcome to our latest episode of Hex Talks, where I am joined by Briony Monroe, a wonderful actress from Scotland. Briony Monroe has appeared in one of Hex Studios' own horror films, The Black Gloves, but she has also appeared in a variety of other exciting horror and fantasy projects. These include Hex Studios' own upcoming fantasy film, Dragon Knight, as well as the short film, Killing Me Softly with Her Love, which co-stars Kate Dickie, star of the famous horror film, The Witch. Briony has also been cast in the upcoming horror fantasy film, Realm of Darkness. So Briony, thank you so much for joining me today. And it's such an exciting career you have because you're still a young actress, a young woman at the start of your adventure with so much ahead of you. And already you're knocking it out of the park with exciting projects.
Thank you very much for having me on the show. This is exciting.
So Briony, it is an absolute pleasure to have you on the show. I'm so excited to have you here today. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you. Thank you for allowing me to be here.
Of course, and I have a variety of exciting, weird, and amazing questions for you. But first I have to ask you, how are you today? How are things right now?
I'm great, thank you. I'm talking with LAWRIE Brewster. Of course I'm okay.
Yeah, I'm sorry to bring that unfortunate experience to your life.
How are you?
So, yes, I'm fine, thank you. I'm okay. We're all doing fine in this dystopian era of post-apocalypse.
Yeah.
So, tell me a little bit about, because we have some really exciting topics to cover. But first, let's get to know you, Briony. How did you get into acting? And you're young. You're 22, right? Or 23.
Yes.
Wow. So you're a young puppet. So how did you find yourself in getting involved in acting? And how long have you wanted to do this?
Oh, honestly, I've wanted to act since I was 8. So since I was really young. The first film I knew I wanted to go into acting was Titanic. And I know that's not your typical classic film that actors, go from. But for me, Titanic was the first film that I watched where I questioned what actors did. I even remember thinking to myself at the time, so he blinked on screen. Does the director tell them when to blink? Like that's how that's how intricate and detailed I thought the whole process was. But it just fascinated me. And I also grew up on a lot of movie musicals as well. I loved the 2000 version of Jesus Christ Superstar by Andrew Lloyd Webber. And I remember there was a moment in that where Glenn Carter, who plays Jesus Christ, there was a moment in that where he gave this look and he didn't say anything, but it gave me chills. And I remember thinking, if I could ever one day make anyone feel half of what he made me feel in that moment, I'll be really proud of myself. And that's what I want to do.
I mean, that's actually a really powerful motivation to, to be inspired in order to create these very particular feelings in people, these emotional responses. I think that's a really good, authentic reason to want to act as well, because that is what it's about, really.
Yeah.
Some folks would say because they want to try and pursue the celebrity that an actor might have rather than, to create those kinds of magical moments. So in respects to Titanic then, was it also because you wanted to be in the car with Leo?
Maybe.
Of course, Briony, you won't realise that when I first saw Titanic, it was originally because I'd asked a girl that I was really into at high school, and she turned me down, only to,
Oh.
yeah, only to end up going to Titanic with a guy far more nerdy than me, a guy with a name like Gordon Dingwall. And of course, I was there, right? Didn't expect to see them there, about 2 rows away from me. I was like, oh my God. And of course, me being a sad git, I was watching Titanic on my own. So every sad bit, you know, when they're smooching and everything, I was like, oh.
Oh, no.
And originally I went to see Titanic because I was being quite spiteful. I was like, yeah, I can't wait to see Leo get it. You know, I was actually watching it because I was wanting to see Leo die, you know, because I was feeling that emo about my own broken heart. But of course, no. You know, at the end, I was like, Leo!
I know, it's so sad.
Emasculated by this other woman, and then emasculated by my own feelings for Leo when I'd originally gone there to see him die. It was terrible, terrible, traumatizing experience.
Oh no.
I'm glad you love Titanic, Briony. That's great.
I love it.
So, what about your background then in training? Some actors have gone down the academic route. They've gone to drama schools, formal education. Others have not gone that route. They've scrambled to learn in any way they can. And there's so many different paths, you know, that lead you to a screen or theatre career. How about yourself?
It's kind of been a mixture of both. So I started at a youth drama club when I was really young. I can't remember what age exactly I started that. I must have been about 7 or 8. And my parents really noticed me coming out my shell because I was super, super introverted. I still am to a certain extent, but I was nowhere near as bad as I was. And they could see the difference it was making. And I wanted to stick with it. So, excuse me. So we came back. So I should tell you, this was all in Holland. So that's where I spent most of my childhood. And then when I was 11, I came back to Scotland with my family, and I really wanted to stick in the drama side of things and acting. So I did another youth drama club, which is really fun. We put on shows every year at our local theatre. And then when I was 14, I went to UK Theatre School. So that was like my proper official training, if you like, academic training. And again, that really helped build my confidence. And then I went to college after that to study acting. So it's been a kind of long process.
Oh, that's amazing. Right. So your parents then, your parents have supported those aspirations you've had since the beginning.
Yes, 100%. They weren't so supportive when I told them I wanted to be a human cannonball when I was about 5. But the acting side of things, yeah, they definitely supported me.
So at college then, was that the HND, which is like a 2-year qualification in the UK?
Yeah.
Cool.
That's what it was, yeah.
I also did an HND in acting and performance, but unfortunately my acting career didn't take off. I had grand visions, you know, of like playing Hamlet, but instead I became most famous for playing Diagonal Man in the physical theatre classes in a black leotard. I kept playing diagonal because we had to do diagonal dance moves, and mine were so funny that the lecturers would find reasons to bring in what they called Diagonal Man, even in plays that weren't supposed to have physical theatre. And I was like, come on, guys, why the hell does Diagonal Man have to appear in this? It's a somber piece. Oh no, you'll just be doing these diagonal moves in the like this kind of like black morph suit type thing. I was like, no, man.
Did you pass with that?
Well, yeah, I guess I did.
Amazing. That is skill in itself, let me tell you.
Thanks. One day I'll have to bring back Diagonal Man.
I'd love to see a rendition.
So you've done your 2-year qualification then, and like a lot of people when they've been in academic environment studying acting, it's a beautiful experience because you're in a bubble, and it's a wonderful thing. You're getting to lead the life of just concentrating on your art and with your friends and colleagues that are doing the same. But then you're ejected into the horrible, cold reality of Greg's sausage rolls. And you know, what do you do then? You know, was that daunting? You know.
Yeah, it was pretty daunting because I knew I didn't want to go to uni. Um, that was maybe just a step too far for me personally. So I remember all my college classmates filling out their applications for uni, and I was just kind of sitting there, and I remember thinking at the time, like, oh, maybe I should just as a backup, just in case. But to be honest, I was only thinking like that because education was a security blanket for me. And I thought, no, 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 this is the time to just go out, have a bash, try it, and if it works out, great. If it doesn't, I'll just cry for the rest of my life.
I mean, I'm relatively successful in the creative industries and I still cry every night. So,
Yay, we can have crying parties together.
so in that case, then the pursuit of this career, which is, I guess, more than a career, because to be an artist is a lifestyle. So all of this, how much does it mean to you then?
Everything, really. I know that that might sound like a really underwhelming response, but it really is my entire life. I choose acting over everything, everything. And some people might view that as unhealthy, but it's honestly what keeps me going and what keeps me just motivated in general. Um, so I'm gonna keep trying.
And you would pick it over even 3 Fisher and Donaldson fudge donuts.
Yes, absolutely. Uh,
But what about 4?
now you're testing me. Now you're testing me.
For our international audience, Fisher and Donaldson fudge donuts are a rare and beautiful delicacy from the east coast of Scotland, and unfortunately one that I ate too many of during a recent film production, leading to me putting on 1.5 stone, which is why now I'm only eating pigeon heads on some kind of strange diet. But that shows your determination, Briony, that you would refuse to eat donuts in pursuit of your dreams.
Yeah, that's the dedication I take it to.
So, Briony, let me ask you, is there a perfect character that you would love to play? A character you've always wanted to play, something that kind of really expresses what you're about as an actress?
Well, funny you ask that because, as you know, I'm usually cast as characters that are much younger than my actual age. So I've always wanted to play a character that's really devious, really manipulative, and really dark. Someone kind of like Aileen Wuornos, the serial killer. I know a
Mhm.
film was already done about her with Charlize Theron, but I just want to play something like that, or a character who has little to no empathy, because that would be a massive challenge for me. I'm a Cancer, so I cry all the time. I feel all the time, so it would be an amazing experience, I think, to play a character just really dark like that.
You could play so many of my ex-girlfriends. It would be a real challenge, an exciting and dangerous one. So you're interested then in the dark side of characters then?
Mhm.
Especially like to go so far as to be interested in playing a serial killer. But of course,
Yeah,
I share that interest. I'm a macabre filmmaker myself.
yeah. I watch endless documentaries about serial killers. I'm infatuated, absolutely infatuated.
Wow, that sounds awesome. Would you ever consider developing projects yourself at all, like writing or acting? Or sorry, well, yeah,
Yeah,
but
yeah, I absolutely would. I think writing it would actually be a bigger challenge for me, I think, than acting it. But yeah, I'd be so open to do something like that. That would be really fun.
yeah, especially like even with something like a short film as well, like with a character of a serial killer, it could be a great introduction for
Yeah.
audiences to this other side of you as well. But that's brilliant. I would love to see. I think you could do that. I think you would be a fantastic, innocent-looking femme fatale.
Thank you.
So, Brian, you've featured in 2 Hex Studios feature films so far, The Black Gloves and our film Dragon Knight, which is currently in post-production. As you know, Hex works in the horror genre, and now we're working in fantasy. But what kind of genres do you like the most? And is there any genres you haven't tried that you would like to have a go at?
I honestly love all genres. I love everything from Nosferatu to music and lyrics. And if you don't know what music and lyrics is, it's that Hugh Grant and Drew Barrymore rom-com. So I like a very, very different things of genres. I love, as you know, I love horrors, I love thrillers, but I love comedies and just loads of and indies. I love loads of different things. But the one genre, not that I dislike, but it's sci-fi when it's set in space. So for example, Stranger Things, I absolutely love because that's aliens set on planet Earth with human beings. So because they're human beings and it's set on planet Earth, I can relate to that. And it's the same vice versa when it's shows and films about astronauts going into space. Again, that's human beings going to space. That's reality. That's something, again, I can relate to. But I'm gonna get so much hate for this. But see things like Star Wars, see when it's like characters that aren't really human and it's set on different worlds and space, my imagination just doesn't stretch that far for me to enjoy it, which is a shame. I envy people that can, because I've always wanted to enjoy that kind of franchise, but I just can't do it.
So your nightmare would be having to perform in a scene set in an alien bar talking to a giant blue mushroom man that
Yeah,
goes.
yeah. Pretty much. Those have been my nightmares.
But you could get a nice costume. You could get, like, I don't know, some kind of silver anti-gravity suit, that would look.
That would be fun.
I want to assure you that at least with Hex Studios, we'll never have the budget to make an expensive sci-fi film with a giant blue mushroom alien man for you to speak to in an alien world. So you'll be safe, So, Briony, being an artist, we all have different challenges that affect our careers. Mine's is generally neurosis and my formidable sexual presence, which often makes things awkward for all kinds of impressionable young people that are in awe of me. That's what I've been told, right? One of the challenges that you've experienced is the condition known as Asperger's. And I would love to know when you were diagnosed with that and what it's been like working with that. So yeah, if you could let me know a little bit about that.
Yeah, I was diagnosed when I was quite late. I was 19 when I was diagnosed. I had various different tests done when I was 8, but even back then they thought women couldn't have Asperger's. So they were doing all these different tests and they were like, she's displaying traits of autism, but it can't be that because she's female. So we're just going to discard that. So I was just sort of ambling my way through life and through education. And then it just got to the point it was really frustrating me. Like in school, I was constantly being told by teachers that I was really bright, but I was failing all of my exams. And nobody could really understand why. So yeah, I was 19 when I got the official diagnosis, but I think we'd all kind of had suspicions for a while.
That must have been like, was it like an emotional bombshell to get that diagnosis,
Yeah,
or how
yeah.
did you feel about it?
It was kind of bittersweet at the time. I'm not gonna lie, I definitely resented it at the time more than I embraced it, because in my head at the time I was like, right, this is it, this is a label where it's officially saying that there's something wrong with me, and because I wasn't in control, that made me panic a lot. um but it also helped in regards to college. So I was in college when I got the diagnosis, and my college lecturers at the time, they were then able to put things in place to help me a little bit, which was really, really nice of them to do. So yeah, Leah and Maddie and Caroline were all amazing with me at that time and really supportive. So that was nice.
I guess in some ways the diagnosis might have provided some context for some of the feelings and things that you had. Was that the case, or did it not really feel like there were questions or unexplained aspects of your life? You know, it was just like, hey, I'm just me, and now they're telling me this. Or was it like, finally this explains why maybe this? Or
Yeah, it was weird. I never really questioned quirks or my quirks at the time, because to me it was just my normality. It was just my normal. So I didn't really feel the need to question it. I guess the time I started questioning it a little bit was in school, and I was quite happy just being alone. And my teachers would call my parents in a panic, saying, "We're worried about Briony. You know, she's got no friends, and is she okay?" and all that kind of stuff. And in reality, I was completely fine. Like that's what I wanted. I didn't like being around. Well, to be honest, I was scared of people in general. I was absolutely terrified of people. So I just didn't socialize at all. I was pretty much a mute when I was in high school. Um, but I was comfortable with that. I was fine with that. But it was everyone around me that was getting in a bit of a panic, and I didn't know why, because to me that was just normal.
it's incredible just how from those circumstances you would find yourself entering a career in which human interaction is almost constant and intense,
Yeah,
and it's all performance based. It's all based on creating an emotional reaction with an audience. It's the most intimate type of career you could possibly choose, so it's such a 180, you know,
I know.
from that experience.
Yeah, it is. I think what I've always loved about acting was I didn't really think about the social side of things when I started. I loved acting because it was an escape from myself and from me, because I resented myself so much for a long time that it was a form of therapy for me to escape into another character with their problems in their society, and I didn't get to focus on me at all. And I loved that, and that's what really gravitated it towards me. And yeah.
Well, I think that's the thing about creative expression when you're an artist, is that it is therapeutic, because it's not something that we mentioned earlier, that to be an actor or to be an artist in any way is really just a career choice. It's a lifestyle choice. And that lifestyle choice is normally predicated on the need to be creative and expressive for all sorts of emotional reasons, which are, you know, different for every individual, but all seem to converge on the aspect of needing to do it. And if you couldn't, you wouldn't know what to do with yourself.
Yeah,
It's
that's
also, you know, it's interesting as well that when you were at high school, when teachers or folks were concerned that you weren't socializing in the context, that obviously now you are, and the interactions you're making are so much more intimate on an emotional level when you consider performance than the superficial interactions of small talk and things like that among people.
yeah. No, that's absolutely right. I just even now I just have a small group of friends, like just people that I'm really, really close to. Um, because a lot of the time it comes with social anxiety. I have a lot of social anxiety. I don't do well in rooms full with people that I don't know. And unfortunately, as you know, that comes a lot with the job, with screenings and events. And so with those kind of things, I do just push through it. But a lot of the time it can be quite exhausting, actually. I come back and I'm just like flop on my bed, like, oh, that's me out for a week.
Well, you know, my colleague and cousin Michael Brewster, he also has a very small circle of friends. His one main friend is a bath sponge that he's carved a face onto, and it's really horrible what he does to that in the bath. You don't want to know. In fact, their friendship is too personal and close. Really, it's
No comment.
Yeah. I'll send you the pictures later, though. They're
No, it's
amazing.
okay.
So, Bryony, can you tell us a little bit more about what the condition of Asperger's is then? And for folks as well that might not understand, like even I don't fully understand. Maybe nobody really understands except, I don't know, Wikipedia. The differences between Asperger's and autism, because in my mind, vaguely, Asperger's is like a much milder form of autism. But is that right? Or so what's the condition like for you?
Yeah, it's strange because I think only after a few months after I was diagnosed, the diagnosis is now autism. So they've completely eradicated Asperger's now, which I personally don't understand because, as you say, Asperger's is just a more mild form. Um, but yeah, I honestly think I'll be here till 2022 talking about how it affects me. It was really noticeable when I was young, I think. When I was really young, I didn't know that there was expressions and figure of speech, and I didn't understand any of that. And I would take things really literally. I'd be out walking in the streets with my parents, and if there was gum or dog dirt on the street, they'd be like, "Watch your feet." And I would stop dead in the middle of the pavement and look down and watch my feet. And they'd be like going off without me. And they were like, "Briony, what are you doing?" Because I didn't understand that it was just like an expression. And also, I remember having a birthday party one time in Holland, and I locked myself in the bathroom at my own birthday party to read a book because I just wanted away from all the chaos and I just want to put it out there. My parents didn't ever force me to have birthday parties. Like, I wanted them, but it was only because I knew that's what my friends were doing. Therefore, I should do it too. Um, but even back then, I didn't feel comfortable with it, and I didn't like the chaos of other people constantly there. And um, so, yeah, it was more harrowing, I think, when I was younger. But as I've gotten older, I've learned social cues and what is the right and wrong way to react to a certain situation or a certain phrase, and I've learned that throughout time.
That's a very complete answer, Bryony. I can't possibly add anything to that. Not even an amusing anecdote. You've completed it. So, for example, if I hold a party now, though, how would it feel going to a party and you see me crying over an empty whiskey bottle, spinning the empty chambers of my revolver, crying about my career?
Mm-hmm.
Would that still be a fun experience, or would that be something that
like,
you would?
I'd just be like, dude, same. No, I'd give you a hug. Not a very long one, but I would give you a hug and probably leave and just pretend like it didn't happen.
Do you experience social anxiety still, or?
Yeah, a lot. I've actually been fine this past year because we've been in a pandemic, so I've not had to worry about being immersed with loads of people. But yeah, I notice at gigs I'm really bad for it. See, when people are jumping about, and I guarantee if I'm in the standing section of a gig, I will have an anxiety attack, 100%. I don't know if that's Asperger's mixed with the fact I'm really small. So I just have like loads of tall people just jumping around and can get quite overwhelming. But with social events, I'm getting a little bit better. It's not great, but it's not as bad as it was. Yeah, because I mean, even with people that I know well, even if I had 7 or 8 people around me that I knew really, really well and that I regard as close friends, I still get quite anxious about it. And I don't know why, because it's people that I know well. But if I had those same people split into just groups of 4 of us at a time going out, I would be a lot more relaxed about that. Strange.
So the best way to hold a Briony party then is if we invite 8 people, but we put them all in separate rooms.
Different rooms, yeah. Brilliant. That is my idea of a party. And have like a little book corner where people can go and read and
Yay.
not allowed to hassle them. You just leave it. That's my idea of a party.
So, of course, you're pursuing a career though enthusiastically in which you work with groups of people. For example, on the set of a film, you'll have a crew, mostly depressed middle-aged men looking at cameras and trying to work out sound recorders, and then other actors who are all bitches. So you like how does that compute? How does that feel?
It's strange. I actually only discovered this recently, but I've noticed that when I'm in a work environment, I'm actually totally fine. And I've noticed that I'm somewhat sociable and I speak more than 2 words, which is amazing. So when I'm in a work environment, it's totally different from a social environment. I think it's because I know that there's so many quirky, creative industry people. So I know that whatever joke I'm about to make, whatever I'm about to say, I probably won't get the look of, what? Did you really just say that? Whereas when you're in a social environment full of people that do different normal day-to-day jobs, I guess, I think it's best for me just not to say anything because I might say something where they're like, that was a bit weird.
Well, I mean, that's why I always especially hire people like Michael Brewster or Thomas Staunton, who are so socially and sexually awkward that they will make anyone feel comfortable with whatever they say compared to what they'll do. It's part of the Hex way.
I love that.
And I always consider you lots of fun to work with. And perhaps it's because I think I can be the same as well. When I've got something to do, there's an adrenaline, there's an exciting motivation, and there's a clear sense of direction,
Yeah, 100% it is. It's the adrenaline, and I'm on a total high when I'm filming. A total high. It's nothing else can come close to what I feel when I'm on a set.
So then, in that case, do you ever feel that Asperger's sometimes holds you back in your career, or is it the opposite? Does it give you some unexpected benefits, insights, or different perspectives?
Yeah, well, sensory issues is a big part of me and Asperger's, and the only way, not the only way, but one of the ways in which it can hold me back is a lot of the time I can't go to the screenings of films that I'm in. As you know, I'm in a lot of films that have violence and blood and gore and all that kind of stuff. And one of my sensory issues with sound is violent sound effects, like punching, hitting, whatever it is. Visually, I'm fine with it. I can watch any gore you put in front of me, but I can't listen to it. So it's annoying. A lot of the time I can't even go to screenings of my own films because there's no escaping that. It's going to be there. So I kind of need to judge by the script of what exactly is going to be in it and will I be able to cope with that. So that can be a bit annoying. But the way in which that it helps is that I feel my love for acting is amplified by my Asperger's, and I feel that if I didn't have Asperger's, then I wouldn't have such an intense love for what I do. So it means that for every role that I'm given, I put 100% of my energy and my time into that, and I will research and I will do what it takes to make it as authentic as possible.
That's remarkable, and it's such a shame as well, though, about how some of those issues can affect your enjoyment of the premiere. But at least there's I was going to say the cast and crew party, the rap party, but then the party as well can be a job.
No, that's actually okay as well, because I know that I'm there with quirky people as well. So it's okay, it's not as bad. It's really only with a party environment of people that are normal.
So is there anything you think the film industry can do then to be more inclusive for folks with Asperger's, or not? You know, what are your thoughts on the industry then?
In all honesty, I would just treat it as a normal set and as a normal production. The only advice I could give to industry people is that, especially castings and directors, is that if they willingly take on an actor with Asperger's, and they might have certain requests, not to ever view that as diva type behavior, you know, diva demands, because a lot of the time that's not what it is. And you'll probably remember this, you might not, but I remember you were the first director that I told about my diagnosis, because in the script I had to hold the balloon, and I am terrified of balloons bursting and popping. So I'm not scared of the balloon itself, just with the unexpected loud noise. Again, that leads into the sensory issues. And I was really, really nervous, because I thought, even at the time, I was like, this sounds so ridiculous. They're going to be like, what is she all about? But you and Hex crew were all really, really sweet and lovely. And you didn't laugh at me, which was really nice, because that's kind of half of what I was expecting. So that would be the advice that I would give to others. If you take on somebody in that situation, then just be prepared that they might ask certain things of you that you might not normally get from other actors. I think a lot of the time, a lot of actors with autism request like skeleton crews for certain scenes. It just to have like the basic number of people there, you know, so that you don't have any added stress from too many people being in the one space. So yeah, that's my advice. But I don't think, you know, everything should be changed unless, you know, that's a kind of agreement that the actor and the director will have, I guess. But yeah, just treat it as a normal set. Otherwise.
Sure. Yeah, I guess in some respects it's because you do want to just be another. I mean, you want to feel like you are another actor.
Yeah.
You know, not that you have a completely alien version of the film industry and you never experiencing the normal film industry.
Mhm.
But at the same time, you know, whether it's Asperger's or any other condition, because there's no such thing in my life as an actor without some condition. You know, we all have something going on, but what sets actors apart is that they have to operate on a much more intense emotional level all the time, and they have to stay switched on because they might have to perform at a moment's notice, whereas, you know, the crew, they can take a break. You know, they're not in front of the camera. They can go have a cigarette or eat a sausage roll and get crispy bits all over their beard. You know, so for example, the requests that you made were not in any way extraordinary. They were, you know, reasonable in so much as that's the support that you needed in order to give the best performance. And a director or a producer especially should be compassionate towards the emotional needs of their performers in order to get the best performances out of them and for them to have a pleasant experience, because you want everyone to have a pleasant experience, but most of all, so that we can create the best art that we possibly can.
Yeah, exactly.
Like some of the actors I've worked with have had various kinds of emotional issues that are triggered by certain types of situations, circumstances, or even behaviors with the crew that require modulation, you know, so that we can get the absolute best out of people. And sometimes it's not constant. Sometimes it might be because of a particular scene. So for example, like a really intimate scene or a really grief-stricken violent scene. And if you have someone or people just, you know, mucking about and they can't get in the space, you know, so it's the same as with the balloon, really. And for directors and producers that overlook those kinds of emotional, psychological, whatever you want to call it, needs of actors,
Yeah.
then they're only compromising the quality of their own work.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I'm really lucky. I've personally never worked with anyone that's taken that attitude. But I can imagine if people in the industry didn't do their own research on you know, autistic traits and things like that, I think it can be quite easy to be overlooked and just be kind of brushed to the side. But as you say, it totally compromises the end product of a film, really.
Sure. And hopefully as well, like artists that are watching our video as well can get a sense that it's okay to speak up about any issues that they have, you know, or to even, if they feel comfortable doing so, disclosing a condition that might affect themselves in a production and their enjoyment and capabilities of working as well, that it's not like a thing that necessarily has to be kept secret, you know?
Yeah, I agree.
So the next question is something that a lot of people have different opinions on. And specifically in respect to yourself, it would be a question about whether an actor should be able to, or whether you think an actor should be allowed to play, for example, an autistic character if they are themselves not autistic. And just to broaden that question, or to put it in context, there's been a lot of debate among journalists, really, editorial people, and acting groups as well, about whether an actor should play a role if they don't have certain characteristics. So another example would be where there was recently a publication, an article, should I say, that said only gay people should play gay characters. And so, for example, like in respects to your condition, should only autistic people play autistic characters? And how do you feel about people then, therefore, playing autistic characters if they are themselves not autistic? It's quite a complex issue.
Yeah, I honestly, I don't have an issue with neurotypical people playing autistic characters. I genuinely don't have an issue with that at all, as long as they research to the hills and back and try and gain as much of an in-depth understanding as they can. Because at the end of the day, I play neurotypical characters all the time. My research has been live and has been through a whole lot of masking, which is, masking is like when you're able to not show that you're autistic, and you know, you're very wary of eye contact and inflection in the voice, and you know, these are all the things that I have to think about on a daily basis. But that's my research, that's what I do. So I don't have an issue with actors who aren't autistic playing autistic characters, because at the end of the day, it's acting. You know, if we kept going, you could keep going down that route about numerous different things, and then it's going to end up in a world where it's going to be like, right, we want actors that have experienced all of this in their lives, who are neurotypical, who are straight or who are gay, or, and then it just doesn't become acting anymore. You're just casting another reality show full of people that are themselves.
I agree with that sentiment. It seems to be something driven mostly by people outside of the creative industries, really, that are just writing, you know, clickbait nonsense. But yeah, after all, where is the fun of acting if we don't get to place ourselves in the heads of characters? Of course, that also comes with a great responsibility, especially when you're having to perform someone that is so different to you, but is still a very important trait, such as a condition. For example, like the good friend of mine, Jamie Scott Gordon, had to play a military veteran with PTSD for our film The Unkindness of Ravens, and he placed a lot of research and time. And the validation we got from that was only when military veterans from the Veterans Hospital said that they felt his performance had expressed a lot of their feelings and inner demons. And we had a counsellor as well speak to us about it after a screening to say that he thought it was a very authentic performance. And I was like,
you know what? I watched him in that role, and it was amazing because I watched that before the Black Gloves, and I remember turning to my mom saying, "I cannot wait to work with this guy." Like, that was an insane performance. It was amazing, and you could tell he didn't just rock up that day and thought, "Oh, I'll just have a bit of a guess as to what it's like." You could tell that he had done all the research that he had to do, and that is what you should do when you're not in a position where you can fully relate to that yourself. That's what you need to do. You need to research is key. Absolutely key.
and of course, we've also seen in the situations where this goes wrong as well. The recent controversy with Sia Furler's film Music, I think it is, that has sparked an enormous amount of debate about whether that the portrayal of a very severely autistic character is authentic or not. And how do you feel about that controversy at all?
I need to be very careful with the way I word this. Maddie Ziegler is a very, very talented human being. Her dancing is insane. She's great. But she isn't an actor. She isn't a trained actor, if that makes sense. And we can't pin the blame on her because she wouldn't have known to do all the research that she had to have done to realistically portray that role. And that's not her fault. She's still really, really young. That really should have been the producers and the directors to make sure that the character was written in an authentic, realistic way, because I feel that character has been portrayed to have like severe learning disabilities, and that's not what autism is. You know, it comes with a lot of problems, sure, but not to that extent. And I feel that that's just been purely lack of research, which is a shame. But
I mean, from the glimpses I've had of Maggie's portrayal of that character in a trailer, I think it's called Music, is it?
Yeah.
It kind of reminded me a little bit of Ben Stiller's character of Simple Jack in Tropic Thunder,
Right.
which is which, if you haven't seen, right, is not a flattering compliment to the it just seems so over the top. Maybe the film is different, but
what I gathered from the trailer was that when she was having her meltdowns, it was like she was tripping on acid. You know, she had like all these different colors and, you know, like a band playing and all that kind of stuff. And I just think they're glamorizing it in a way, you know, as if having a meltdown is that beautiful, and it really isn't. It's so far from that. It's so far from feeling like you're on drugs or something, you know.
That it almost portrayed it as something glamorous when it's and I absolutely, I could imagine like how, and I think that was one of the reasons it sparked that conversation as well, because you have all this kind of activism and politics looking into it, because there's always a credence, you know, of truth. There's something there, but then it can get blown up, I guess. But in any case, well, I guess we'll have to wait and see. I think it might be a car. Will you watch the film at all? I found it kind of like I found it to be overly stimulating. Like, I actually felt a little bit anxious just watching the music. They had a music video bit, and I was like, this is like a nightmare. Like, so many things just coming at your face.
Yeah, it was it's exactly like that. It's just like you're not catering to the audience that you should be catering it for. You're doing the complete opposite.
It reminded me of a horrifying practical joke my sister played on me when I was a young teenager. We used to live in in a flat that was by the ocean, and at night a lot of bugs across the sea would come to the window at night, you know, because of the lights, and they'd just be on the glass like that, and I'd be like, oh my god, I'm closing the curtain. It's just like a maze of them. Anyway, as a joke, my sister knew I was coming back at a certain time in the evening, and so she decided to leave the lights on and the windows wide open, so that when I came into my room, when she heard me come up the stairs of the flats, that's when she, that's when she closed the door and put the lights out, so that when I walked in unawares, I put the light on. What I saw, right, was it must have been, I don't know, like over 1,000 daddy long legs. And it was like a sea of them, like hovering on the ceiling. Like it was like a giant kitchen wire sponge covering the whole ceiling. But at that instant, for some reason, were all attracted to the warmth of my face. So all of them just like descended like a cloud. I was like literally, I think I literally screamed. Like probably the only time in my life I think I screamed was just that.
You just screamed? I would die.
Oh man, I had like close to, I had to get a bug spray. I think I must have spent like 2 months finding legs and daddy long legs carcasses. Yeah. But my sister did get in some trouble for that, but not nearly as much as she deserved.
Still better about it, I see.
So that's what the Sia music video excerpt from that film reminded me of, that moment when I saw a cloud of daddy long legs just descending on me. So we probably covered some of this already, but just in case I've left, or we've left anything out, is there any myths or misconceptions about Asperger's that you feel is out there that you'd like to clear up?
Yes, we're not all Rain Man. Yeah, when I was younger, even now, I barely had any concept of numbers. I was terrible at maths. But I feel like that's a very kind of, what's the word? Oh, I can't think of the word. It's like
an assumed ability.
Yeah, it's just like expected. You know, people are like, "Oh, there's a wild equation on the wall." It's like, no. But I went through life not seeing a lot of representation of women with autism. And I recently started watching a Danish show called The Bridge, which if you haven't seen it, it's absolutely amazing. It's incredible. I think it's right up your street as well. And this isn't a spoiler for anyone that's maybe watching it. But there's a main character in it called Saga, and it's very obvious that she's on the spectrum. And she's very blunt, she's very direct. She doesn't sugarcoat things. She'll tell people exactly how it is. And there's this one scene where a character is, shouting and screaming at her and is just had enough of her, and he storms out, and she turns to this other character and says, I'm sick of people talking to me as if I don't feel any emotions, because I do. And that way it made me feel really emotional, and it really resonated with me, because that's exactly how I feel a lot of the time. I am really blunt, I'm direct, and a lot of the time that can come off as rude, even though I don't mean it to be that way. And in turn, that can make people a bit angry with you or frustrated, and then that does actually really upset me. Knowing that I've potentially upset someone else without meaning to. So I guess that's another misconception, is that we're all kind of emotionless robots. I think that's another reason I wanted to go into acting, was to prove that we do have emotions, and that I can somehow realistically portray certain emotions.
No, I think that's right. I think there is those kinds of misconceptions, and I know that because I used to have those misconceptions when I was younger. Because really of how people with those kinds of conditions were portrayed in films, and you didn't always meet folks really, or you weren't aware of folks with those conditions. So yeah, and there's a funny one, that every person with autism or Asperger's is like a nuclear physicist,
Don't get me wrong, I'm sure that's the case for a lot of people, but I just don't want that to be automatically attached to the condition, like, oh, you must be really smart, and it's like, I'm actually one of the most stupid people you'll ever meet in your entire life.
Again, you haven't seen my crew. Okay. Okay, so we'll move on to another exciting subject, which is your work with the famous Scottish actress Kate Dickie, who has appeared, of course, in The Witch and was a formidable character in Game of Thrones. And I understand that Kate Dickie is more than someone you've just worked with. She is a friend and almost kind of a mentor to you. Can you tell us, what's it like working with Kate Dickie, and what's that relationship like?
Again, I'd be here for months talking about her. She's absolutely incredible. She really is. She's an amazing human being to just be around, both on and off set. I actually first met Kate when I was about 13 or 14. It was at a screening of a film she was in, and she had so much time for me that night. I remember meeting her and I was like, I want to be an actor. And she honestly, I can't even tell you how long she stood there speaking to me. And that just meant the absolute world to me. So then fast forward a few years, I'm 18, and I get my first lead role in a short film called Eggshells, which is directed by Colin Ross Smith. And a few months after that's released, he's also at an event that Kate Dickie's at. And they're chatting away, and my name somehow gets brought up in conversation. And Kate says, I really want to work with her one day. And then fast forward again another couple of years, and there's a script sent to me called Killing Me Softly with Her Love, which was written by Katie White. And they were like, do you want to be a part of this? And I read the script and I absolutely fell in love with the script and the character and the story. And I was like, yes, absolutely. And then they contacted Kate and said, Briony's going to be in this. Do you also want to be a part of it? And she read the script, loved the script as well, and said, yeah, I want to be a part of it. And that was it. She ended up playing my mum. That's how we got to work together after so many years.
That's incredible. I mean, Kate Dickie sounds then like a really compassionate, authentic person, and for her to take that time as well with an aspiring actress, especially when there's so many people that want to work in the creative industries. She must have seen something remarkable and very special in you to share that with you and to work with you and create those opportunities.
Yeah, no, she's honestly amazing. What you see is what you get. And she will do anything for you, seriously. She will bend over backwards for people and to help people. And she's given me so much useful advice that I've taken on board with me and have carried through with me. And she's just incredible. I love her. And I would work again with her in a heartbeat.
Yes, absolutely. And of course, I mean, I have the utmost respect for Kate Dickie as well. I mean, she's one of our nation's best actresses and a fine character actress as well, although she's been a wonderful lead as well. And most famously in the film Red Road and obviously Game of Thrones and The Witch as well has introduced American audiences to our amazing talent as well.
Oh, she was
although I think absolutely. Although it's amazing to see talent like that supporting new talent as well, because that's not ordinarily the case.
Yeah, it can be quite a volatile industry, I guess, as you know. But Kate's genuinely not like that at all. She is rooting for new talent all the time, and I love her for that. She's just really supportive, and she doesn't view anyone as kind of competition, that petty way that a lot of actors can have. She's not like that at all. She's beautiful inside and out. I love her.
I'm only beautiful on the outside, unfortunately, Briony, but never mind.
How what they've been telling you?
Don't destroy my dreams. I'm not a monster. So, Briony, we now come to the last question. Although, in theory, it is a sentence that consists of many questions. So, we now come to our last multi-question question. Our last multi-question question. So this year has been a hard year for us artists, living in the midst of a global pandemic and the apocalypse. But how have you found the challenge? Have you managed to keep yourself busy? Have you been okay? And now that we're in a new year, 2021, is there any projects that you have coming up? Is there light in the horizon?
Wow, what a multi-question question. Yeah, truthfully, I've really struggled during the pandemic, as I'm sure a lot of people have. At the start of the pandemic, I lost my survival job as well as the acting work starting to fall away because of everything that was happening. So yeah, I've really struggled. I've just been really grateful that along the way I've been able to pick up some acting work here and there, which is great in comparison to a lot of other actors, especially in this country just now. I know fellow actors that have lost their homes due to this pandemic and have had to move back in with friends and family, and it's honestly just heartbreaking. And I can't wait until this whole nightmare is over so that we can push on and get back to doing what we love doing again.
Absolutely. And well, let's see. What do you have coming up in 2021? I know that you will be working with us on Dragon Night. We have a big scene for you that will be filming as soon as things are just a little bit safer. Is there any other projects or that you have that you will be in, or is there any projects you might even think of developing? Or
Yeah, well, I have a web series coming up and another feature. Unfortunately, I can't talk too much about them. But I have another feature coming up called The Realm of Darkness, which, as you mentioned before, is a fantasy horror. So yeah, it looks like things will be looking up again. Just as you said, when things start to open up again and when it's safe. And I'm really excited for that. I'm excited to see what the future holds.
sure. I guess we all are, with a slight sense of trepidation, you know, with a kind of take every day as it comes and keep our fingers crossed. But yes, I see an absolutely golden future for you, because I think you're such a talented actress and a great artist as well. And I hope you have lots of opportunities. I'm sure you will. Certainly you will with us, as much
Oh,
as we can.
yay. Thank you. I'd love that.
Well, Briony, I want to thank you so much for joining me today on Hex Talks, and it was a really fascinating and educational conversation. So thank you so much.
Thank you
And
for
I
having me.
feel absolute pleasure. And so I must now bid you adieu. Bye. Be sure to hit subscribe and the bell notification icon so you don't miss any of our future videos. Also, if you would like to support our channel and help us make more content, then check out the Patreon link in the video description below. Thank you and goodbye.